Plumbing. Plumbing on a boat. Plumbing can be quite extensive, and on some boats it can be quite simple, but no matter what the plumbing is that you have, you're going to need to have it winterized. Plumbing on the boat, when we're talking about winterizing, we're not talking about the engine. So this is all the different services for water, whether that's raw water that comes up from the lake, or whether it's water, fresh water that comes out of your freshwater tank. What are you going to need to do? Well, first thing, and arguably even before you haul your boat out of the water, you're going to need to empty your holding tank. So everything that holds the contents from here, take it to the local pump out, get a pump out and flush the pump out with, and flush the tank with a little bit of fresh water and get it pumped out. Next thing that you're going to want to do is empty the water tank, the fresh water tank on your boat. Well, the easiest way to do that is make sure your boat's plugged in, turn the tap on, and let the water flow. When you let the water flow, you're just emptying the tank out completely. After you've emptied the tank out, you're going to be ready to put some antifreeze in. So, antifreeze looks like this. This is sometimes referred to as plumbing antifreeze or plumber's antifreeze. Sometimes it's referred to as the pink stuff. But this is your most common product that you're going to use in your plumbing system, not your engine. This particular antifreeze, just to highlight the point, is good for -10. And you might think, well, -10, you know, especially around here, we see sometimes like as much as -30. But in terms of your plumbing system, because you're actually removing the water to start with, -10 is just fine. It's also, from a cost point, it's the right price point. It's half the price of the stuff that you're going to use for your engine. What do you do with it? Well, after you have emptied out your water tank, and after you have, this is going to be our pretend water tank over here. After you've emptied out your water tank and after you've emptied out your holding tank, you are going to look at the water tank. There's going to be a hose coming off of it. The hose that's coming off of it, because your engine's been winterized, because your plumbing has been winterized before, the hose can be disconnected, whether you're just undoing a clamp or undoing a coupling. You're going to take the hose then and put it in the jug. Some people like to do it this way, and some people will actually pour the jug right into the tank. I'm a big fan of disconnecting the hose and putting it in the jug. Then you're not filling your water tank with antifreeze. Once you've got the antifreeze connected, turn the pump on and just let it draw the plumber's antifreeze through your system, and turn all of your taps on and wait for the pink to come out. When you see the pink coming out, you know you've got it circulated through all of the taps and your job is done here. It's not entirely done, but it's done with the plumbing side of things. If you decide though to put it into your tank instead, you're going to need many jugs. As an option, you can get your shop vac out, open up your tank, they've all got inspection ports, and just vacuum up the last little dribbles of water that are in the tank. Gives you a chance to clean the tank too if you want to. That covers the basic plumbing with the taps, but then we've also got the toilet and we've got the bilge that might have water in it. The toilet, you're going to actually just take some of your antifreeze, pour it into the toilet, and then pump the handle up and down and circulate it through the system. It does mean that you're going to have some antifreeze in your holding tank, absolutely fine. If there's any little residue along the way, any water collected along the way, this will manage that. What you do want to remember though, this stuff, unlike stuff that you put in your car, this stuff is not meant to be diluted. So you really do want to make sure you flush the system out beforehand as best you can. The other spot where you're going to put some plumbing antifreeze is in your, possibly in your bilge. Some boats hold a deep little reservoir right over the keel. It's called the sump. And you might have a bit of water in there. Get your trusty shop vac out again, vacuum up all of that water that's there. And then some people like to pour just a little bit into the sump or into the bilge in case any extra water trickles down. It will help prevent freezing. Make sure though, if you do that in the spring you vacuum it back up again. Don't let it pump overboard. It's an environmental protection conversation. We don't want this stuff going into the lake and feeding the fish. Then you might also have air conditioning on your boat. Air conditioning circulates water. It tends to be isolated from the rest of your water system, so you're going to need to winterize your air conditioner as well. For that, I will tell you to get your owner's manual out, but in concept, there's going to be a hose. The hose comes off, goes into the jug, and then you start the air conditioner up and let it circulate through. But get your owner's manual and double check what methods they recommend for winterizing your plumbing on the air conditioner. There's lots of different units out there. All right, let's talk about hot water tanks, the other element in your plumbing system to think about. So a hot water tank, usually about that big, and it's got a fair volume of water in it. You've drained it because you drained your water tank and you've run the taps to get all the water out of the system. Just like it will use a lot of antifreeze to dump your antifreeze into the fresh water tank. If you've got a hot water heater, it will also hold a lot of that plumbing antifreeze when you're trying to circulate it through. So one of the methods that you can use to help cut down on the amount of plumbing antifreeze that sits in both of your tanks is to isolate your hot water tank. This is a little bypass kit. I mean, essentially it's a piece of hose with the right attachments on the end. And on your hot water tank, instead of letting the water circulate all through the tank, you'll open up where the hot water goes in, or where the water goes in and where the water comes out, and you'll connect those two together. That way, your tank, which you can drain, there's a little drain on it, but your tank is open to air for the winter. It's not going to suffer from any expansion problems, but you've also not left a pile of plumbing antifreeze in the tank and just quite simply spent lots of money on it. Great way to just save on some of your resources. The last thing that I like to recommend, once you've got all of your plumbing system completely winterized, is to put a little note. Put a little note right on your distribution panel where the switch is for your pressure water or for your air conditioner, for your hot water. Put a little note right there with a post-it and a piece of tape maybe that says, winterized, do not turn on. It's not the end of the world if it gets turned on, but if nothing else, it's going to remind you that you've put a bypass on your hot water tank, so you need to reverse that if you haven't already done so when you launch. But also, if you've disconnected your air conditioner, if you've isolated things off, you want to put them back the way they need to be come the spring. You don't need to be launching and going, oh, where's that water coming from? So always good to leave little notes for commissioning in the spring.